group of death in the 2019 WCS Global Finals. First player to ever win the GSL 4 consecutive times, the strongest Terran in GSL, Maru. Asia's rising star, who's made it to his first WCS Global Finals, time. The only Protoss player capable of driving Serral and Maru to the edge. Stats. The first non-Korean to win BlizzCon. The current defending champion of WCS Global Finals, Serral. Continuing on from the revenge match in 2018 BlizzCon, it's a confrontation between the strongest players from the GSL and the circuit. The 2019 WCS Global Finals, Round 16, Group B.
생각한 것보다 좀 못한 것 같아가지고 좀 아쉽긴 한데 그래도 블리즈컨에 왔으니까 괜찮은 것 같아요. 그것만 이기면 우승한다 마인드였어가지고 근데 3대0으로 지니까 우울하더라고요. 아무 생각 없어요. 그냥 내줘구나. 저는 올라갈 것 같긴 한데 대엽이 형은 못 올라올 것 같아요. 저랑 세랄이 올라갈 것 같아요. 그냥 제가 질 것 같지 않아가지고 지면 뭐 반성해야. 그래도 사람들이 저희 조가 제일 빡세다고 하니까 좀 열심히 준비해서 제가 1등 진출할 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
因为这是中国已经就是几年来都没有进过豹子嘉年华了嘛，然后这是我今年第一次进豹子嘉年华。其实年初的时候没有想到我自己有实力能进吧，因为当时是第一届是美洲区和欧洲区分开的，我觉得那次是我比较侥幸的，然后进了一次4强，但是没想到后面发挥也算比较稳定吧，然后每次都8强进了BlizzCon，所以这次BlizzCon对我来说还挺意义非凡的吧。其实当我其实已经大概率知道我要这个分组，因为当时关系到 Classic 会不会去，就是到底会不会来宝嘉年华。但是我觉得，其实让我到这个分组的话，也挺荣幸的吧，因为能跟世界上算是最强的 TvT 交手，然后对我来说是一次非常大的经验，尤其是在 BlizzCon 这么重量级的比赛上。然后反正我不管怎么样，也会在这一段 BlizzCon 之前的这段时间会好好的去练习，然后希望能在这个。怎么说呢？能给人留下一次深刻的印象吧。其实在我这个分组里，我觉得面对谁都一样吧，因为他们3个，我觉得都是算是也不算今年吧，就是这2、3年以来最有机会拿BlizzCon冠军的选手，而且 Stace 和 Serral 又是去年的算是冠亚军吧，然后马入也是连续3、4次夺得 GSL 冠军的人族，也是就是算是世界第一梯吧。其实，在这个三个人里边，我最不愿意面对的就是马入吧。因为在 TvT 这个对抗上，其实没有什么战术方面的吧，主要是还是拼实力。但是我觉得他的实力确实现在是世界第一人组，是我最不愿意面对的对手。但是我最不愿意面对的对手是我第一次参加豹眼嘉年华的，然后第1场比赛，反正认真的去准备，认真的去打吧。其实我这个分组就是豹眼嘉年华以来他们说是最难的一次分组嘛，但是我对这次准备，也就是对我这个分组的。准备情况总体来说现在也是比较好的，因为我的陪练对象都是很厉害的选手。然后在 TvT 方面主要是针对马入的野兵营吧，因为我觉得他不管波5打成什么样，他总会放一局的，才可以争取拿下那一局。然后正常打的话也在找 innovation 一直在练习，所以我觉得如果打前中期的话也不会有什么太大的就是实力上的差距，所以尽量想在前中期拿下比赛。然后打 Serral 的话呢，就是我觉得他是真的属于一个很全面的选手吧。上次 ROG 那次跟他打成2比3，其实有点侥幸吧。然后，但是这次也准备了一些比较奇特一点的战术，然后希望能拿下比赛吧。然后打 Stace 的话呢，我觉得 Stace 他打法他很少放大招，他打大型比赛基本都是稳的这样去打，所以我觉得打8本的话，就是只能拼实力的去跟他打。这边对马如想说的话呢，就是 虽然你实力上确实很强，但是 BlizzCon 上我的准备的对象也是很厉害的选手。然后之前我在 WSG 的时候也3比2赢过你。
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to kick off Group B for the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series, round of 16. There's so much action to come. What a story! I love hearing that. So much respect coming out of him. Joining me is Pig. I'm Nate. Man, hearing Time's thoughts, and so much respect for Cyril. By the way, everybody has that level of respect, but can't beat him strategy-wise. Oof.
That's a tough one, man. I mean, this player, if you're coming up as a Terran player in the last few years, and we saw in the info before, shortest career, 4-time, you're looking up to Maru, you know, all last year, absolutely dominant, won the first GSL of this year, and Maru has just, he's had that special quality, right? We've seen so many matches where he's been behind and he's brought it back. He's resurrected himself from being way behind time and time again. So I just love seeing Maru here and, you know, getting tested against the new blood straight away. It's going to be a good match.
Yeah, a lot of players. When you talk about what makes this the group of death, it is Maru, Cyril stats, and you're looking at the players, as Time himself said, they're the guys that have been finishing first place or second place or winning 4 GSLs in a row. And you think about opportunities for him, and this, you really don't have a bigger chance to make a statement than Time has in this group. I feel like he's been one of the cooler stories of this year. He's leveled up his play. He was someone that we saw last year, but it really feels like he's put out some impressive results in 2019, and he's just been growing in that result. So
yeah,
if ever there was a time for him to get people on his side, this would be it. This is the group. If he could do something here, that's gonna that stock going straight up.
Yeah, I mean, that would be astronomical. For him to come out of this group, even in second place, for him to even win one series would be just such a huge step in his career. Because, I mean, BlizzCon, we talk about these groups, it's so hard to predict what's going to happen, who's going to win, who's going to come out. And then you look at this group and we're like, oh, no, this is the group of death of the insanely hard tournament. It is just so stacked. And Time comes in as a player where maybe if he was in one of those other groups, especially, I think maybe a bit of TvZ against someone like Su, we've seen him do very well against some of these other players like a Laser, might be favored. Against these players, he's got his work cut out for him. It's going to be an underdog story to start things off.
It says a lot that I think he could make it out of other groups, but this one will be extremely tough. It is going to be very interesting to see what he tries to do to crack the puzzle that is going to be Maru, as we know he can be such an aggressive player himself. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time to kick off Maru versus Time. Spawning in the upper left position of Ephemeron, we have the red Terran, considered one of the best Terrans of all time in StarCraft 2.
Jin Air Green Wings, Maru.
He faces off against the rising star of the circuit from the last year or so. The blue Terran, he is
Newbie, Time.
Working his way up those ranks, and 3 round of 8 finishes in the WCS circuit this year. Very solid finishes throughout. Of course, I think what really put Time on the radar for a lot of players was that incredible back and forth series with Cyril at that tournament over in Helsinki about a month and a bit back. And, you know, he really took the fight to Cyril there. It was very close, a lot of those games. So it is a fast second barracks here for Time. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the 2 ranks Reaper, rather heavy pressure opening.
I like this for multiple reasons. You have to consider, it is Maru, right? And we wouldn't have been surprised if Maru had just opened this series by proxying him, you know, try to establish dominance, maybe T-pose on him a little bit. But that 2 barracks opening means it's not only going to be the possibility to get aggressive with those Reapers, and this has to be like you should be able to scout this out if you're Maru. You're kind of looking for this.
Oh, yeah,
or
he's
you're
gonna
expecting
actually
a command center at least if there's only one gas.
Yeah. And he will see it as well. Nice scout there. So always good to get that verification. And immediately just going to kind of turtle up in your high ground as Maru. Maru was already going for the double gas build order with a really quick factory, and that's perfect against this. You can get Hellions out so damned fast. I mean, you often don't even really need a bunker here to defend the Reapers, right? You can just kind of camp the high ground. If those Reapers jump up, you get the first volley of shots off and you're fine.
Yeah, Hellions have a weird relationship with Reapers in the early game where they actually kind of lose in those low number counts, but once you get enough of them to actually do some splash damage, then the Reapers, they lose that value very quickly. And he gets his own command center going, he gets that bunker up. As far as Terran versus Terran goes, we don't see a tremendous amount of it at the highest level these days, and this might be one of the only TvTs that we do get to see in the global finals. But what we generally end up seeing is the focus on the early Raven Vikings for that early map control. We see a lot of players still do those pushes off 2 bases while you take the 3rd with some Ravens and tanks, because the damage output of those units is so strong. There's so much opportunity if you can catch your opponent with an interference matrix and get that vision with the high ground for your siege tanks to blast away. There's tons of opportunity. This map, of course, is not going to be any exception. There's multiple different ways to try and push over towards where that 3rd is, or the natural, if your army is out of position.
Yeah, one of my favorite maps in the pool. Good to see it coming out a little bit more in these non-Zerg matches, especially. Zerg players have been a little bit quick to veto it so far, but here in a Terran versus Terran, of course, neither specific advantage for either side. It is going to be a Cyclone on both sides of the equation, and a quick medevac following it up, not going straight into the Raven. Now, that could just be kind of something like a Marine, Hellion, Reaper drop. Just kind of grab your units, chuck them in the mineral line.
Yeah, he's getting the siege tank with this, and if he decides to wait a little bit, like it could just be, oh, I'm going to bring the Hellions over, bring the Hellion Reaper and just do a little bit of poking with it, maybe with the Cyclone to do some counter micro if his opponent builds the defensive Cyclone to try and lock on with. And time is kind of going for that, right? He's got this quick 3rd command center. He's tucked it in. He doesn't want to try to build it on location or even at the edge of his base in case that drop comes from over there and slows that expansion down. So it looks like he's going to swap over to build that Raven, but it's going to be that quick drop with the tank, and I think he's got the Reapers on the low ground, so tank and 4 Marines. This is one of those things that if it catches you, it's very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, right now there is a Cyclone out for time. That is the majority of the anti-air. Reaper is going to spot some of these units coming in, but a nice pick up there. Maru does snap that down. He's coming forward with that Cyclone, working its way down towards the front of the base. Siege tank going to start sieging that bunker.
And this is really awkward. You got to be careful with your control there. Goes for the lock-on, but the siege tank will blow the Cyclone up in 2 hits, so time needs to bring the workers back over to repair. And actually very slow reaction on the bunker. That bunker is just going to die immediately. And Maru taking a very dominant stance very quickly here against time.
Ooh, nice lock on those. Cyclone versus Cyclone. Lots of damage going down in Maru's Cyclone. Great interference matrix. The boys come off the line. A good Hellion splash though. Already 5 workers going down. 7 workers falling. And Maru keeps the Cyclone alive, keeps the Reapers, gets out of there. Bit of economic damage. Hasn't really cost him too much just yet. His 3rd command center is later, but he's just piling on the aggression. This is Maru's strength. If he can just lean on his opponent and just force lots and lots of micro, lots of fights, there's a chance he can run away with this game.
Oh my goodness, he picks off the support units for the siege tank, spreads out the Marines right in front of it. SVs come off to repair, and looks like time is going to be able to protect that tank. That is so important this early on. Cyclone actually getting the lock onto the medevac very big as well, preventing a little bit more of that micro and the sustainability of the Marines up front.
That was actually a really good hold on that one. He manually targeted the siege tank on the Cyclone, did time, and then he got the repair down. That could have been a lot worse if that tank fell. So gets the medevac as well, does stabilize now, and finally gets to heave a sigh of relief and say, all right, let's just take a deep breath. Yes, I lost quite a few workers there. I'm trailing by 8. But time has been dropping mules this whole time. He's continuing his production. He's got Ravens out. So I feel like he's still got a few things that give him a slight edge, which makes up for the worker deficit a little bit.
Terran versus Terran has always been one of those funny matchups where you look at the early worker pickoffs, and it doesn't have the same level of impact as it does in the other mirror matchups, because usually to get that damage done, it's something like a delayed command center, but then you're like, okay, well, I've got that first mule is going to be earlier than yours, and you'll never make up for that income difference at this point in time. You're only going to be able to match it later when you finish that 3rd command center eventually. So Time loads up 2 medevacs. I love Maru leaving a Marine here to spot for that 3rd base, and this could get this could get tricky because he's not going into medevacs. Maru, he's got the 2 Ravens. He's going for multiple Vikings.
Oh,
Viking
dude.
Raven. That's how you take control of TvT early on. Oh god, this could be disastrous.
If they get locked down with interference matrix, that could be huge. But he's actually going to find his way right on into the base. I mean, the auto turrets go down right on top of the siege tanks, though. Those siege tanks so exposed.
Yeah, the auto turrets do a lot of work, and of course, this is one of the reasons why you'll see these openers so much in TvT. And Maru's going to smack that down, says thank you for the tanks and the medevacs. Didn't really get too much for it, as he's got his 3rd command center landed, and, well, looking at like the worker count, everything ends up just about even here. But TvT, those power units, very, very important to maintain.
The tech units, there is an advantage for Maru now. So off the back of that, I mean, we looked at that, we're like, hey, wow, the numbers kind of look the same, but I mean, you've still got your Raven in the air, you've got your Vikings, we've got a siege tank advantage. So these are all very nice things. And the next fight that happens, if Time doesn't really crush it, he's going to lose all of his medevacs. You know, he's kind of given up air control at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's not going to catch up that Viking count. He's lost his Raven. So what can you do? I mean, you can drop, you can try to overwhelm with Marines, but any sort of prolonged static situation where you're both just sitting outside of tank range, Maru has the advantage. He can pick off air units, he can inch his siege tanks forward using that air control. So Time here, he's going to have to be a bit more active with drops. You can see he's zoning out here on the north side of the map. He's got to try to create some just space for himself. And over time, a big enough Marine tank army can definitely, you know, find an opening. You catch your opponent partially unsieged. Vikings, Ravens, not the most important units.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about TvT, and even you're looking at like, well, isn't Maru supposed to be the player that's like crazy aggressive? Like in TvT, the openers, it always starts like that for the most part. But people play very cautiously. You're getting those sensor towers much earlier. You know, there was periods of time where we didn't really see sensor towers until you're in like a maxed out, like mass tank situation in Terran versus Terran. But the focus is going to be on upgrades, which is really important. Speaking of, combat shield's finishing right as Maru's little hit squad runs into Time's little hit squad. Except Time's 1-1 isn't done, so his Marines would be absolutely butchered if they took the engagement there.
Yeah, not quite as many Marines for Time either. Good little catch there as well. Maru does catch the Cyclone Time stims forward, but Maru on point. Both of these players are so quick, constantly watching their units, not letting anything get caught out. Quick 4th command center for both sides, going to the 2nd factory to increase the tank production, as those tanks, of course, creating areas where it's very awkward to engage. So this really is the modern evolution of TvT, is players being very on point with the defensive setups. We see they've both got sensor towers, they're starting to add missile turrets, Vikings patrolling the edges to stop drops, and you want to send these little drop squads around to pick at your opponent, look for openings, but you can't really just break through the front unless you find a very nice engagement. Siege Tank's defensive tower is such that, you know, you've got to spread your Marines against them, you've got to come in with arcs, and you can't break an entrenched position if there's a choke point.
And it is worth mentioning with the Raven, if there's only 1 or 2 tanks on a position, that lack of Vikings you talked about, which Time has started to work on a little bit, means that you could use the interference matrix, bust down those tanks, and with an upgrade advantage or a good spread on Marines, you can kind of get that fight that you want away from the splash damage, and then the siege tanks themselves, well, they're not going to be able to do anything if all the Marines are dead. So you have to be extremely cautious at all points, and that early Viking count is going to be nice because he can actually try to fight for that air superiority right here. Doesn't look like Maru actually brought tanks with that drop, though.
This might actually be a great move here for Time. He's found a command center. The planetary is not quite finished just yet. Mass repair comes down, the Marines stim forward, and that command center, is it going to go down? Maru, though, he's quick to react. He's bringing his Marines over.
Yeah, really good. I mean, he gets SCV kills, but saving that command center is extremely important. He's just going to stand and deliver here underneath the base, and then hopefully get these medevacs out. That's going to be important, losing that. The starport time in TvT becomes so important. Vikings, if you lose your Marines, we live in this brave new world now where the Vikings landing on siege tanks is a huge, huge threat. If you are too aggressive with your Marines, you can't even like unsiege the tank in time to fight the Viking. You'll die that fast with the bonus damage they do to mechanical. So we're already seeing Maru get 2 additional starports to prepare for that big air late game, but instead he's going to try to charge into that natural 4 interference matrices dropped.
Time's going to have to disengage. That's a lot of siege tanks, but a good hold by Time. Maru thought he sensed an opening, didn't realize the rest of the army was so close, and It seems like Time there might actually have the Viking advantage for the moment, but with second and third starport finishing up the upgrades, Maru has not missed a beat on those upgrades. He's so active with his army, but he just always starts the upgrades as soon as he has the cash, as soon as the previous one finishes, and he's still looking for an opening here. A very ambitious push here from Maru.
Jockeying for position, the Marines going straight up the ramp, taking huge blasts, but Maru has 3 on the low ground that are killing all of the Marines of Time. And once again, the conversation pick goes back to the air control. If you lose that air fight and the Vikings can get position, the next phase of the game is going to get even harder. And what I find curious, Maru, with those earlier starports, he's focusing on replenishing that Viking count. Once you can establish that air dominance, you get Liberators with advanced ballistics, and you have that range upgrade, you are looking mighty fine. But as our observers point out, and I'm going to echo off what you said, we still don't have 3-3 started for Time's bio.
That being said, that big fight was a big misstep from Maru, trying to force his way up that ramp. I mean, that was, we talk about Maru's greatness, his ability to work his way back from behind. Sometimes, though, he does take an over-aggressive engagement, and now he's way behind on the Marine count. Time senses weakness. He's going to try and jump forward, but I think his tanks might be a little bit far back here. A bit of an over-eager extension there. Time, it was just a disjointed push. He got the siege up, but the tanks weren't in range. So that push there, unfortunately, does whittle away a bit of his Marine count. Looks like he's going to just shove through here. Time, very ambitious.
He killed a lot of the tanks, and he's in a position where he could trade a few out. Like, if he could break those tanks, that'd be nice. At this point, if he could push with everything, like 4 siege tanks isn't necessarily going to be the tide turner, because he's getting Vikings and Ravens behind us. That's where the money's going for Maru as he tries to replenish the tank count. But it was only like 14 siege tanks to 6 prior to that engagement, and being able to put that stranglehold with a giant tank spread for Time is really nice, but now it's getting a lot closer.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a sloppy push there from Time. I think Maru's push up the ramp, definitely a high-risk, high-reward situation, which didn't pay off, but this one, I think, was just a little bit too eager. Kind of saw the tanks, said, hey, my army's bigger, let's go, but it was a disjointed attack, and it kind of extended. He followed up with the siege tanks trying to siege up in range of Maru's tanks, which just got blitzed. It did nothing. He lost 5 tanks for 1. So I think Time there, losing track of that a little bit, and from now, we've just got to watch the air battle. The unit count is going to be everything in the skies. So I know Maru's been building 4 Vikings at a time way earlier. He's got multiple Ravens. Time's second and third starport just finished. I don't know if he can keep up in this air battle.
I really like the interference matrix. Those 2 tanks going to be easy pickings, and without the support, actually could get the rest of the tanks since he doesn't have the high ground vision anymore. Or it's going to be the vision for the tank for how far it is, since they can shoot further than they see. So vision is so important. Sensor towers in the middle of the map. Oh boy, buckle in.
Yeah,
Buckle
both
in,
players,
ladies and gentlemen.
They're kind of pushing each other back here. They're saying, hey, you want to backstab me? I'm going to see it way ahead of time. The Viking count is identical. The Ravens not really taking a big effect here. Time gets a few Vikings. He's still somehow maintaining that air advantage despite having less production. A big drop on the right-hand side going to come in as well. Cannot engage the planetary directly, though.
Yeah, very risky to try and do that with so many SCVs to repair it. Sometimes even see get that
Maru's third.
For that.
Maru's third's open.
Well, he may have found a soft spot to attack, grabs that sensor tower, cleans up the Marines that are trickling in, and could go for some more of the SCVs, which is going to
stay there a little long.
Yeah, I think he maybe overstayed his welcome, but at the very least, he's pulled Maru completely back inside of his own base, Pig, and actually spotting that right there. The fusion core has only just started for Maru, so the Liberator transition a bit further away. He's actually going to go up to 5 starports now, it looks like. Maru is.
He hasn't been using them as consistently, though, so I do feel Maru is slipping up just a little bit with the Viking. Well, I mean, it's not even the production so much as the engagements. He keeps engaging when he's just down on the Vikings, or he gets caught, where Time's done a really good job of stimming a few Marines forward, getting some important shots, and just taking out 1 or 2 Vikings. You don't mind losing 7, 8, 10 Marines to tank fire, because that's turning the air battle in his favor. And look at the Viking count. It's 18 Vikings for Time. He's building 4 range Liberators at a time. He's up against like 6 or 7 Vikings of Maru. I think Maru wants to go into BCs maybe, but right now the air battle is looking very scary. Maru, though, he's got a big Marine count, 60 Marines versus 20. So if Time gets caught out of position unsieged, he can lose this game very quickly.
As long as he's in position, that's what those sensor towers being put so far out are for. This is a great pickup, just grabs that Liberator. Of course, you don't want to have to send your Vikings home to try and protect that. But the thing about TvT is if you've got those tanks with the +2, he's got 10 siege tanks. Yeah, 60 Marines to 23 is a lot, but if he's not caught out of position, as you said, You're not breaking that. You're not going to stim your Marines into 10 siege tanks with 20 Marines supporting them and win that fight. So Terran versus Terran, the pendulum swings into the air battle, which is, it gets wild, it gets crazy. The Ravens gain a lot of value as you get to that phase because the anti-armor missile can allow Liberators to fight Vikings. They can kind of tank that, but also battle cruisers. Interference Matrix is a very powerful tool against those as well, and if you're using the battle cruisers, you can also increase their damage because they don't do a lot per hit, but they shoot very fast.
Yeah, we're going to see Maru try and push forward on this left-hand side here. The Liberators are going to siege up. On top of that, there's more tanks in the back. Some of these sieging, they're not quite ready. Maru jumps forward. Time a little bit slow to set up. All the Liberators go down. His own Marines come in, but they haven't actually stimmed just yet. Time does have the numbers, though. Those defensive tanks, that red hit point tank on the left-hand side, it was just off camera for most of that fight. It slaughtered that army. It barely survived. It did so much.
There's a huge opportunity right now for Time to try and, I think, move a little bit forward, honestly. The battle cruisers are going to take a little while to come out, but frankly speaking, since he's got +2 vehicle plating finishing and he already has a decent number of Vikings and he's adding Ravens and Liberators, battle cruisers on their own aren't going to come out and wipe this army. So I'm a little bit nervous. Time is just kind of, he's chilling, he's sitting back, but the supply that he has is very good, let alone a little bit more than his opponents, but there's certainly some opportunity there. Now, battle cruisers in TvT, once you get enough of them, it becomes very tricky because you start to one-shot the Vikings, or you just kind of drag around the bases, force them to chase back. You don't want to stim Marines to chase those, and in fact, since the Marines have less range, they struggle with the battle cruisers' high armor.
Yep.
At full upgrades, battle cruisers got 6 armor. They're chunky boys, pig.
Oh yeah, man. If you've ever seen +0 Marines versus +3 armor battle cruisers, it's one of the funniest things you'll ever see. It's like literally throwing pebbles at a tank. It does nothing.
That only happens when you rush the battle cruisers like me. If you don't have any attack upgrades and you're using Marines against BCs, I'm very scared, very concerned. But there you go. So, I mean, the value you generate, battle cruisers can technically dodge the interference matrix, at least on this patch. They don't have that delay, so they can teleport away as the missile's in the air, so you can bait Raven energy out. But if you get hit with that, well, BC's not doing a whole lot for you.
All right, Liberator's going to siege up on those tanks. When he decides to go for it, the tank's already kind of pulling back from Maru.
I love Time's army. I love everything about this. Yeah, just stim forward, interference, matrix, and with this many Marines and the Raven, the battle cruiser is completely useless. You hit that with an anti-armor missile, the Marines are going to rip it to pieces.
Yeah, it's only 3 BCs as well. It's like, you get a bunch more, it might be more powerful. Right now, the BCs are contemplating a backstab, but Maru, I mean, where are his units right now? It's almost pure siege tank, and we saw they kind of shifted to the right-hand side.
He's on the production.
Oh, dude.
I don't know what Maru's going to do here. He does not have enough battle cruisers to try and do some crazy base trade situation. All the units have to be brought back for Maru, but his production, you're losing your add-ons. Even if he cleans this army up, there's so much there. He's going to teleport the battle cruisers back home after hitting that anti-armor missile.
Interference matrix go down immediately. The battle cruisers just get shut down. The Marines, though, stimming up much healthier. And I think Maru's interference matrix is on the tank there. Absolutely key. Shutting down a few of those tanks, more BCs popping out. It looks like Maru just barely going to hang on to his production.
And loses still so much. The time it will take to replenish those add-ons, to rebuild the infrastructure here is going to be, it's going to be debilitating to a degree. And the other thing to consider, Maru's getting his 2-2 going, but the upgrade advantage for Time in the air was also very nice to have. It won't be too big of a difference anymore because he didn't go straight for the +3-3. But when especially you're using battle cruisers, and now both players are building them, Pig, which brings me to the scariest part. Have you ever watched a battle cruiser try to kill a battle cruiser?
It's quite a slow process outside of Yamato, man.
Say you put the kettle on when that fight starts. Make your tea, do some popcorn. I don't know, get some squats in, and then you come back and the fight's almost over.
Well, add a few SCVs repairing,
and it just never ends.
Literally will not end. Yeah.
the fight goes until the map mine's out.
Of course, for those who don't know, battle cruisers have a much stronger anti-ground attack as opposed to the anti-air. These tanks going to come forward here for Time. I mean, what have you got to defend? Maru needs to defend these bases. This one and the one in the top right, mightily exposed right now. He's got 11 Vikings, 4 battle cruisers, so he has the air advantage, but the Marines are the big threat. He's got to use those siege tanks. Oh my gosh, Time just diving on top.
He's going to yeet in. There we go. Interference matrix on the siege tanks. Marines are going to run forward. Could break an anti-armor missile to help support those, but not sure he's going to need it with the Raven support. Even auto turrets would be amazing here. So many Marines for Time with that supply lead, with the upgrade lead. He is getting massive damage done. and our Chinese Terran player is taking a big stand against the terror of the GSL.
Dude, the anti-armor missile comes down as well on the tail end of that. Maru teleporting his 3 battle cruisers in, trying to save the day, but he's already lost the base. He's already lost a ton of army units. Times economy plodding along. Hey, not just plodding along. Look at that on the right-hand side. He's even taking one of Maru's bases. If he can secure that, he is so far ahead economically, there'll be no way for Maru to get back in this.
Yeah, and look at that, shaving off 3 Vikings with those Marines. That's the downside of having your infrastructure trimmed the way it was for Maru. Yes, he can still spend his resources on battle cruisers, but he's not pumping out a ton of Marines and siege tanks to supplement this force. And if you're time and you've got upgraded Marines, you're not worried about battle cruisers. Marine Raven will smack down BCs all day if you have no siege tank line to protect them.
Indeed. Marines, you know, such a versatile unit, and having all those barracks go down in that push, Maru just doesn't even have the choice to continue Marine production right now. He's already quite broke as well.
It's funny, the Yamato on the turret. The turret will survive with 10 hit points if you Yamato it. Fun fact, everybody.
Promptly burns down afterwards. But yeah, it's tough here. Maru's going to float over his main, or actually his natural, sorry. He lost his main to retake this base. And
well, good luck defending that without the planetary now as well. There's still so many Marines. You need an anchor, and that's the weakness of battlecruiser strategies in TvT like this, is you don't really have an anchor point where you can fall back. With BCs, they are one of the worst units in StarCraft for defending. They're awesome at attacking because you go to kill them and they teleport away. But if you're defending with them and you teleport, well, now you just die.
yeah, we're going to see Maru try to counter-push here. He realizes he's losing his base, and Time's just going to jump on it. Interference matrices shut down every single battlecruiser and tank. Anti-armor missile on everything, and just like that, Time with an upset to start the day.
Beautifully played. I mean, that is beautiful Terran versus Terran to watch, and I wasn't expecting it to start with such conservative play on both sides, but I really feel like that actually favors Time, because he's the player that would be more likely to come into this matchup with nerves if one of them had to have them. So getting a game like that, where you get to fully flex that macro muscle, demonstrate your understanding of the army compositions, the unit positioning, and being able to find those opportunities here and there to pull Maru apart, well, now I think he looks way scarier going into game 2, because he's glowing right now, Pig.
He is
positively glowing.
On fire. I mean, I would be too. Imagine if you just took a map of Maru down there on that stage, Nate. I feel like you'd just be running around the studio screaming with your shirt off.
Yeah.
I know I would.
I've got a tank top hidden around here just in case. You never know.
The stars and stripes on it?
Of course. Of course. Oh, man.
What a great way to start it.
Yeah, no, that's a hell of a game 1 right there. And I think if you're a fan of Time, of which he's gained many this year, that is exactly what you're looking for, because he's not a gimmicky player. He's coming out, he's playing Maru's game. You could argue it was a weird start, but let's see what he does in game number 2. It's time to get into it with Maru versus Time. In the bottom right, sending his workers across the map, he's the Korean Terran.
Jin Air Green Wings, Maru.
Going back to basics. We saw him with a quick mousepad change after that first map.
Yes, indeed. His opponent, will he defend it? The blue Terran player in the northwest.
Newbie, Time.
Most certainly not a newbie after that map 1, but he's about to be tested hard and fast here.
The position of these barracks, Jared, you think in Marauders, right?
It could be. It's 14 supply double barracks as well, so whatever comes out of it, it is hitting as fast as possible. This is, I mean, this is literally just 2 SCVs is all it got built. Barracks, gas, barracks. Definitely could be the concussive shell marauder. That's a pretty quick SCV here, though, for Time.
It hurts. It hurts to send that SCV scout so early on, and he will see that it's a proxy, but I feel like you generally expect it, because with 2 barracks on this map, you can mine out the minerals by the 3rd once you're done building the proxy and open it up there for proxy reapers.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different ways that you can do it. And I thought the position suggested a bit of the Marauder shenanigans, but it is going to be a Reaper coming out for Maru, and he takes the second gas too, so he's going to be looking to get the factory follow-up probably back home to have a Hellion or Cyclone to defend any counterattacks by time.
Yeah, immediate bunker goes down here for time, building a Reaper. Because this was a barracks gas for time, he does not have a quick factory up. So this is actually a very awkward position where those Reapers can jump up the front. The bunker is not going to stop the jump up paths. So those Reapers are always going to be able to find a way in and start kind of creating some chaos. The factory only now going down, it means time has to use SCVs to help himself defend.
Yeah, and this is one of the things about Terran versus Terran that has made this matchup pretty volatile. If you play Terran, you're on the ladder, almost every build that you do is designed to be able to adjust for Proxy Reaper because it is so strong in TvT. And Thunderbird is the map that begs for an economic opening. Oh, I'll do a, one gas Reaper expand, which it looked like Time wanted to do. And because of that, you end up in this really awkward spot where you're stuck inside your base, you have to build a command center in the main, and if you go down that ramp and you don't have enough to fight against those Reapers, you're just dead.
I mean, those Reapers not even going to poke. I really thought they'd test the waters going up against this build. You know the factory's quite late. As Maru, I thought you'd at least try to get on in there. Of course, Time's done a great job with the command center on the left-hand side. Look at that, they're going to jump in, and yeah, you can't get in any deeper. They can just pick off that one SCV.
That position is really awkward, too. Yeah, I think you just sit here and bully it.
Actually, yeah,
you gotta wait for the factory to finish. You gotta wait for a Cyclone.
Oh, that's actually insane. I was like, that's a lovely command center. It stops them getting in.
Oh
it's
my
like,
god,
wait.
he cancels this command center. He's gonna pull SCVs. That's all he can do.
He has to, but look at the zoning grenades.
Look at that choke point.
yeah, you've got to walk through grenades. The Reaper gets targeted.
Oh my god, he's gonna cancel the natural. No.
Wow. Oh, Maru's so patient with this, but so much damage. He's got his own command center past halfway on location. His factory's done, his starport's on the way, and he's using this barracks to even pick off this depot.
Oh god.
Wow, huge damage.
This is one of those, if you're like playing ladder, actually that's the part where you leave the game too. You're like, oh god, I hate Reapers so much. I hate Reapers, pig!
Oh, he's gonna get the tech lab, he's gonna get the tech lab, no cancel. Ah.
If you poke forward with those Cyclones a little too far and they dive too, like...
Yeah, you gotta start repairing that here as time.
Oh my god.
Oh, the Marine's getting just smashed. Oh no, the SCV's blocking the Cyclone, no! Oh my lord, that is not supposed to happen. The Cyclone is what was meant to stabilize this situation.
What do you do?
That's pretty much it. Oh, the two Reapers.
How do you recover from this?
Oh man.
I don't think you do. Yeah, you still got the high ground vision because of the barracks.
That's insane. That is insane. You are not meant to get this much damage.
I mean, without trying to like overly hype it up from this point, he's dead. Yeah, GG. Maru ties it up 1-1, and that, ladies and gentlemen, that's Reapers will put the fear into you. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is the secret to Maru's success, is the fact that he loves his proxies and he can always hit you with an early aggressive play. In game one, he had that cute little Marine medevac kind of push that he came and hit the front with, and Time kind of handled it well. So Maru said, you know what, let's up the ante. Let's hit you even earlier, as fast as possible. And it was a pressure, he's got the command center, the factory behind it. He's just looking to delay the expansion, force a bit of an over-response, and look for little micro edges that he can gain. And we saw that bunker just being too far back for Time, was not able to cover the command center, and then some miss micro on the Cyclone. He focused on locking onto the barracks at first, rather than fighting the Reapers, took a lot of damage.
That's fate.
Oh, that's rough, man.
Wow, so Maru immediately striking back. He brings the game back into his wheelhouse, says, oh, the macro map? No, we're not playing that game again. I do not want to go there. And Time is going to be, honestly, I don't think it's an end-of-the-world type situation, because he got caught trying to play a macro build on a macro map. And in Terran versus Terran, that's why you see everybody open double gas first. Not because you want to all in, but because it's sometimes the only way to not die to these builds. Let's see who's going to take the lead in this series as we get ready for Game 3. In the bottom right, sending out them workers early again. Let's see if we're going to have anything. Excuse me, not sending anything out. He is.
Jin Air Greenwing, Maru.
He sends his first worker to the wall, and I'm like, is it a proxy again?
When it's Maru, man.
Yeah, he can never count it out. His opponent in the top left, he could win the macro game, but had some trouble microing before.
newbie, time.
And another gas first here for Maru up against the barracks gas for time. So time, I mean, we saw it in game one. Strength in the long game. Strength kind of methodically adding upgrades, working his way forwards. Maru has been opening a little bit more aggressively, and yeah.
Back to the game one build, Pig, and I'll say that I don't think that last game really hurts Time's mentality too much, because that is very much one of those situations where you're telling yourself, this is the game we both do macro openers on because Thunderbird's such a big map. I sent the SCV out early enough to maybe see if there was going to be something there.
Yeah.
But you're not playing a Thunderbird build on any other map. So it doesn't really, you know, like you can just go back to whatever your original plan was, the 2 racks Reaper, and walling off here as well. You leave Maru asking yourself, like, why would you have the wall that fast? It means you're not Reaper expanding. You could have gone gas first. You could have been doing a gas first build, and maybe the factory's like just far behind the wall. But
yeah, you know, it's going to be. I think it's a nice way to open just to get some pressure with these Reapers, and we've seen against Maru. I mean, there's so many things that can hit you early, and Maru still seems to be favoring this double gas opening. You know, you're looking at, like, you know, your EU Terrans, your big Gabes. They're going to be going for an expansion every game, right? They're going to be never doing the double gas anymore in the current map pool, or very occasionally. But up here, Maru seems to just enjoy getting that tech out quickly. And there's a lot of options that open up. You know, already 2 Reapers and a Hellion. Will we see the classic 3rd Reaper and a Hellion? Who knows?
I do like it from Maru, though, because this build by Time is not just defensive. It's also a gut check build. If you go for a Reaper expand against this, and your opponent like pokes you at all, you're going to crumble. You're going to have a Reaper, maybe a Marine if you don't go straight for the reactor, and your factory's almost done. Well, you've got 3 Reapers pushing you, right? And things can fall apart really quickly. The other side benefit of doing a build like this for Time, he can very quickly just build a reactor and a tech lab and start getting the Marine count up to go into stem. So he doesn't have to build those extra barracks, like stagger them out later on. He can get a bit of a quicker stim if he feels that it's necessary. He's going to come up and try to scout inside of the main. Will lose one of his Reapers.
Good defense so far. Time really likes to just play this so safe. 3 Reapers on the high ground. It's always the bunker. It's always the Marines in there. He seems to just enjoy this safe progression. And, ooh, quick 3rd gas on the natural for Maru.
Yeah, this right to line it up with the command center finishing. This looks, and that's the textbook TvT build where you get that you lift after the Cyclone, build another tech lab, go straight into the Raven, start building the siege tanks. Maru has mixed it up a little bit already with his openers. He's going to do, we're going to see that medevac build again.
Identical to game 1, right, from both players. The exact same matchup of builds. It's a different map. Definitely does have the slow fields and stuff. Yeah, this is literally the exact same builds from both players. You know, it's something where I think players have gotten so good at defending aggression that we sometimes see this commitment like the 2 Reaper Hellion, which, it's a harassment force, but it's also to keep you safe, like you said. The 2 racks Reaper, I mean, it's a very defensive setup.
If he had done that 2 racks Reaper build on Thunderbird, guess what? He doesn't die to the proxy 2 racks Reaper.
Shuts it down,
Yeah, and then your opponent has a building factory at home. Right, so you get into a really awkward situation there. But let's see what this this drop can do. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. I mean, Time handled it really nicely on Ephemeron.
I think he did really good, and he's actually got a Viking about to pop this time as well. Obviously, he was slow to repair the bunker previously, which I feel like, you know, we could argue was a bit of a mistake. The Raven's not going to come out with the interference matrix for Time this time, so he's going to have to solve it in a different way. Looks like, once again, not choosing to repair this. He's just going to unload those Marines as that bunker goes down. Doesn't sell the bunker. And, a couple of big tank shots here from Time.
Yeah, that hit on the Cyclone really nice and just very easily to be bopped away. It's good because the Cyclone is what you need to zone the Viking out. Otherwise, this high ground vision is a problem, but it's not like he has mag field accelerator, so Viking just dips out, and Maru says, okay, heading home. Get that 3rd command center.
That's a good retreat. I mean, the last thing I want to see from Maru is him overextending in game 1. A big part of why he fell behind was he wanted to force the issue. He wasn't patient enough, and Time kind of just welcomed him in and shut down his pushes.
Yeah, I'm feeling a bit of that pressure, seeing that early supply drop too, as maybe a little bit to overly focus on the unit control across the map.
It's part of the build, Nate. Part of the build. Be landed. Come on, this is BlizzCon.
I don't know. The guys that yell at me tell me that pro gamers never have to supply drop. But the side benefit of this build, once again, Stim is actually so much faster for time. And when he starts to go across the map, of course, the converse to that is you don't have a ton of units because you didn't let this transition straight into 3 racks. They're both going to have their E-base timed out pretty early. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but the opportunity is there for time, at least to have that if he catches something on the map or if he wanted to do some sort of early poke.
Yeah, I mean, it gives you presence on the map at the very least, right? And if you do catch things, like you said, you might pick something up. It's so funny, the PowerPoint, right? Unupgraded Marines, kind of weak, kind of crappy unit in a lot of situations, but Stim kicks in, get a few medevacs with them, and suddenly you get those into a mineral line or on top of some Ravens or tanks, and those units just disappear. So Time definitely has the presence on the map. If he chooses to exert it, he can go posture around for the next minute or two and say, hey, I've got a pack more Marines, I've got the Stim. Other than that, though, both players just kind of continuing to build on upwards. And I think the tragedy of Game 1 from Maru's standpoint was the fact that he had the Viking advantage at multiple points and yet kept losing the air fights due to the Marines of Time being able to weigh in on them.
Yes.
So once again, we see earlier Vikings coming out of Maru, whereas a few medevacs always being the earlier option for Time because he's more Marine focused. So as Maru, you've got to be a little bit more careful with how you take these engagements. You need to make sure those Vikings aren't just getting eliminated by the Marines at the start of the fight. You keep your tank count up, you keep your Viking count up. That's an advantage throughout this game.
Yeah, and the other thing as well that we've been kind of noticing from Time with his earlier pushes, he tried to do that double tank drop on Ephemeron. Even though he knows naturally tanks are good defensively, an interference matrix from Ravens can really ruin your day, right as combat shield finishes, he wants to try and make an attack. Could he do a big drop with this? Absolutely not. He'd get obliterated. Could he just run straight into this? Maybe. He's going to try. Gets one interference matrix, Pig.
Oh, the auto turrets come down nice and quick as well, but the siege tanks are not there for Maru. Maru not in position. Time's tanks, I mean, they've cut him off. Maru's tanks are on the wrong side. He's got one tank behind his natural. That may be his saving grace.
Yeah, I was saying felt a little bit nervous about him unsieging a few of those tanks. Maru's gonna be able to peel 2 of them off, which makes crushing this
upgrades.
Oh my God! Denies the +1 armor, and the attack is so close.
No.
5 seconds to go. SCV's trying to repair. He needs that. Denied. Oh my God. Well, 1-1 Marines versus unupgraded Marines. It's not fair, Pig.
Wow, oh my lord. And this push is worth it already. Even if he gets cleaned up at this point, Time has built a massive upgrade advantage. He's gonna stim in and try to make the most of it, but a good clean up to that tail end for Maru.
Maru's combat shield, he lost a lot of Marines there too. Like, yeah, he just started combat shields.
That'll remind you.
Yeah, one of my favorite things, someone's like, well, what's the importance of that combat shield? I'm like, if you stim, tanks one-shot Marines without combat shield, so it gets ugly fast. And oh, I love everything about this for Time. Look at that, straight into 2-2. He got his armory during all of that.
He's got to be careful though. Right now, the numbers advantage does go to Maru. I love that he's out here. He knows he's got better Marine count, better Marine upgrades. So it's the mobility where he wins. Viking, Libs, Ravens, tanks, all technical units that will smash you when they're sieged up. You do not want to be lifting your army too far away as Time. I think cut off the reinforcements and look for the right fight. But oh, he's flanking in with those Marines from the left-hand side.
He's got a good spread. You don't want to let those tanks outside your base with the Liberators lock it down. He picks all of these units off. And Time, that was perfectly executed. He saw the medevacs load up, but he was doing it to spread out, because if you have that upgrade advantage in TvT, the only thing that could kill you is running into siege tanks clumped up. If he gets a straight up fight, if he gets any type of straight up fight with this army, with these upgrades, he's going to rip Maru to pieces.
Right now, a big advantage for Time. Maru's economy is still good. Good interception from Maru. Gets one of the medevacs. The other one will get a chance to unload, though. Those Vikings, they're going to have to land to fight these Marines, and that means you're going to get a pretty good trade as Time takes out a few Vikings, a few SCVs at the same time, rotating around the left-hand side, looking for a new angle. Maybe an overextension. Maru well positioned here. Takes about as good of a fight as he could hope for, but it turns out upgrades are pretty good in Marine versus Marine.
If Marines fight against Marines and you're down 2 upgrades, you are not going to win that fight. Look at this. He's like, please kill these guys. It's not going to happen. And, well, I'm looking at something that looks like supply, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to channel his spirit, I guess, and say, look at that. I mean, it's a big advantage that's being built throughout this.
2-2 is done. So Maru's like, oh, I'm finally going to get my 1-1. Wow, this game will be even. No.
It's not going to be even until like 2 minutes after times 3-3 finishes when Maru catches up, man. The next 5 minutes of this game, it's going to be advantage time in the upgrades. Not to mention upper base, up 10 workers, his production continuing. You know, Maru's just managed to get a second factory up. He's like, okay, we need more tanks to stabilize and hang on. Maybe I can eventually get a fourth. Guess what? Time's already going into the air transition, dude. Yeah. He is already going triple starport. He's starting those ship plating upgrades. He did neglect +2 vehicle weapons, but I mean, Maru's just started this +1, so you've still got the advantage there for time. He has just played a spectacular game so far.
This has been an amazing game, and to echo everything you just said, Pig, he has done all of this and not missed a beat back home, right? Actually, I'm gonna harken back to the early supply drop Maru did with his first aggression. Time, he's moving out, he's making these pushes, he's taking his bases, he had that armory done on time, something a lot of Terran players will forget. The combat shields was forgotten by Maru. It's looked very sloppy from him in this series so far, at least in the macro games.
It's tiny little mistakes in that regard. I mean, it's not giant ones, it's tiny ones, right? But
right.
They're turning into big ones because time has been so perfect at remembering them, right? So when the fight happens, hey, there's an upgrade advantage, there's an upgrade difference, which that 30 seconds might not normally matter. And big advantage. And I love the rotation of this army, just looking for angles. Maru's so well positioned. It's just he needs to have the sickest fights. He can't just have an average engagement, he needs an amazing engagement.
Yeah, this is one of the only ways that time could lose, is just charging into this and taking a bad fight. He's gonna go for it anyway. Make sure you keep those Marines split. Time is gonna fight with that upgrade advantage, descending upon the army of Maru, taking a 50 supply lead, and it's not enough to defend. Time takes the lead in this series again. GG.
Wow. Absolute confidence there. Didn't doubt himself for a minute. That push, I was like, yeah, this looks a little bit like a headbutt.
I'm like,
you know?
if you're Maru in that situation, the only thing you can do is hope he runs into your tanks and you get a few good shots and you're like, okay, suddenly he's overextended. But time says, no, I have enough to take this, and he looks fantastic. His defense was perfect, his counterattacks, he found the opportunities, and he wasn't afraid to try and make things happen with those drops, getting the damage done. I'm extremely impressed by time today so far.
Clearly the preparation paying off, apparently grinding mass games with innovation. It's a good way to prepare for this guy.
Yes, it is. Ladies and gentlemen, the series will continue. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, the conclusion of Time versus Maru. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series Global Finals Round of 16. We are in the first match of Group B, and boy, oh boy, has our Chinese player given Maru a run for his money. I'm Nathanius, joined by Pig. Hell of a match so far.
Yeah, this one is kicking into overdrive real quick. Time there. A lovely tank push in game number 3. Just bypassed Maru's defenses, got right on in there. Looked like Maru had a great start to the fight, shutting down the Raven. And then Time was like, nope, on your upgrade, slid into the back of the natural, got both engineering bays.
You hate to see it.
I mean, it's been flawless macro, great defense in the early game from Time. Both maps he's won has been him opening up with a 2-Rax Reaper Marine, very safe opening. I mean, this has got to be the point in the series where Maru just doesn't expand build. Just do a Barracks Gas SCV scout expand and go to that next stage. In a lead, or at least even. He's been just a little bit behind sometimes in at least 1 or 2 regards. It's a tough one.
All right, let's get into it as we kick off game number 4 of this Terran versus Terran. In the bottom right of Triton, we have the red Terran player. Can he bring it back?
Jin Air Green Wings, Maru.
His opponent in the Northwest, 1 game away from one of the biggest upsets we'd see in WCS history. He is
Newbie, Time.
All right, Pig, I'm just gonna say it. All right, it's really cool. We're out here, we're in Seoul, and for everybody out there, as a fellow person who's only ever watched GSL online for my whole entire life, I can tell you the people who shout fighting are real and they're in the crowd. It's pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome experience being here.
Hey, we got to see Sue getting mobbed by his fangirls yesterday.
It was like 5 of them. I'm like, oh my god, it's real.
Yeah.
They weren't kidding.
It's kind of cool to be out here as nerds who've grown up watching StarCraft. Me and you getting to sit in here with all the cool kids and watch some amazing games of StarCraft.
Like these wonderful folks in the crowd. Look at them enjoying the year's 2019, and people play video games for money, man. It's awesome. The future is sick, Pig. You know, this series has been so fun to watch. I feel like Time was talking to, I guess, his practice partner, Innovation. It's like, well, I don't know if I can beat Innovation's proxy Reaper. Like, it's really good, right? And Innovation probably just said something like, well, I don't know, just do a bad build that's good against Reapers. Like, let's just do defensive 2-Rax Reaper. There you go. You know, and he's like, yeah, I guess as long as he can't kill me with the one thing he's known for, I should be okay.
I mean, that's exactly it. And it's a great choice. And I mean, once again, we see Maru, even though it's not proxy Reaper, it's a Reaper Hellion opening, and it achieves nothing in this scenario. So I really do wish Maru would kind of stretch out into a different way. If I mean, thinking way down the theory crafting line, it's a bit of a gamble. But if you're going up against this, you could proxy Banshee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Raven comes out so late for Time with this build. You know, I feel like there's a few different builds you can do to take advantage of this. You know, you can just go for a greedier command center. Maru, though, I feel like he's just sticking with the openings that he seems to have the most practice with. And I'm a little bit disappointed in that because I think Time here is just kind of got this inefficient expand build that's ultra safe. And whilst he's hitting his macro perfectly in the follow-up to that, he is playing a little overly safe. You know, he's delaying his tech, he's delaying his expansion. This is something you should be able to take some sort of advantage against. And Maru, I mean, he's the player, he wants to take advantages by harassing you, he wants to take advantages by attacking you, by outskilling you. And Time's clearly not giving him that opportunity, right? Like, the fights that are happening, it's very carefully calculated by Time. It's not just who can micro their Marines better, it's all about the setup to the push. So Maru, I think he's got to be a little bit more flexible this game. He's got to be very careful with the engagements he takes, and definitely can't let something happen like in that last game where letting, you know, that push just slide into his natural, getting caught out of position, a huge mistake. He cannot afford any more of those.
All I can think about is the interview with Time with that little cute video we had played before we started this match, where he said, "I don't think I can strategically outsmart Maru." It's like, I don't think that's going to happen. So this is going to boil down to a test of our skill. And so far, that's what it's looked like. An inefficient build from Time. He opens with Turax Reaper that doesn't really do anything other than keep him safe against a cheese.
Yeah.
And he says, well, I'm just going to hope that Maru screws up. And Maru has. He's made these early pushes and forgotten the depots. He's gotten supply blocked a lot. And had just a couple of odd slip-ups where he had the Vikings and the Ravens. Even on the last game on Winter's Gate, he had the Viking Raven covering the slow zones in the air by his base, and he killed one medevac, but you should almost always be able to get both of them in that scenario, and those 8 Marines actually bought him time to make that big push onto the third.
Yeah. That would have been the point where he stabilized. It was almost an amazing moment where he moved the Vikings over at the right point. Didn't quite get it. But this time, you know, Maru still working forwards, adding his second Raven, his tanks, his third command center. Time doing the same on his side of the map. We have a little bit more often seen just a single Raven out of Time and then a swap over, so we'll keep our eyes on that. I mean, it does look like the same build order, doesn't it? The quick stim starts up, and going to be very interesting to see how this one goes, because, I mean, we're seeing the same openings go up against each other, but it's a different map. It's a huge map. Where the players kind of go to expand for their third and fourth bases is going to be key. How you cover all the space on this map, you know, which player decides to break down the rocks. Triton actually turns into a very interesting map with all the movement that happens throughout the middle of it. So I'm very curious to see which player takes the aggression and how they both move about this map.
Yeah, especially having a third base, or it's going to be the low ground between the natural and the third base, where going down there can be extremely risky. And the way that players can kind of abuse those positions gets frustrating. Oh no, that poor tank. Goodbye, Tech Lab. No, we don't want you anymore.
Yeah. At least he does notice now, not when 4 or 5 siege tanks are all stuck in there, spasming out against each other.
Those are, you're describing my games, Big.
Or Alpha Stars.
I don't know why I would destroy my own Tech Lab. It doesn't make any sense. It's inefficient.
Yep.
And the engineering bays are starting up. Maru, there we've got the 1-1 beginning. He's got the Reaper there to be like, no, you have to pull units out to take your third base. And I'm just going to get that quick scout. So, should be able to land.
I mean, this is nice so far. The Reaper's just battling for map control a little bit. Time kind of winning on that one. Of course, Reaper's easily going to take out any individual Marines all over the place. Slight upgrade lead for Maru. That's been a pattern with these two build orders. I mean, it's amazing how consistent everything is lining up. Yeah. The same like 10-second advantage in the upgrades for Maru in all these games. Good reaction there, pulls the Hellion back. These Reapers just trying to make sure he's not surprised by any pushes coming across this map, and he's setting himself up. 3 tanks of Raven, a pack of Marines with Stim coming out across this map.
He wants to be assertive. That Cyclone in the center of the field is nice. We'll give him some form of a heads up. But the tricky part about spreading out your tanks like this, especially on a map like Triton, is there's so many different angles you can try to make that push through. And if you are not careful, what happened in the last game is he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to interference matrix the edge and then move in on just that one point, wedge myself in, and that's how he got the upgrade. That's how he killed those engineering bays.
Maru was out of position there for a bit long, for just a few seconds there. I was worried about the exact same thing happening. He had 1 siege tank covering his natural, but there we go, the sensor tower doing its work.
God, he's just going to go for it. Good Lord, what a move. Okay, anti-armor missile dropped onto Time's forces, and Maru's going to slaughter this interference matrix on all 4 siege tanks.
Amazing anti-armor as well. I mean, that was a crushing hold. Maru finally gets to assert himself defensively in this series, shuts that push down, and it's his time to start moving out across this map.
Goodness. Well, you know what? You pull out the, what is the Terran panic button, go for a Doom drop, and I don't hate it. I don't think it's, I feel like this is really risky and wouldn't actually do anything, but you almost want Maru to see it so that he goes home and he's like, okay, well, I actually could lose here if you have a couple tanks back home and you get onto my production. So, nice little move there by Time, putting some fear in him, being like, no, you're not just going to chase me back to my base. I'm not going to fight you there. I actually really like that patrolling Cyclone, by the way, too, on the right side that he has, because it's not something that you see as much because players got so scarred by constantly being doom dropped in this matchup for about a year and a half. Now everybody's gotten so much practice against it that it's something that you don't see quite as often. At least at the top level, people aren't willing to risk that as often as they used to be.
Yeah, no, it's not like at our MMR where we lose to it every game, Nate.
Every game.
This is really interesting though, because both players have been working up their macro, sorry, but Maru's actually really focused on it this game. Both of them forgot their armory during the skirmish earlier. Maru remembered his slightly earlier. He went into his 2-2 slightly earlier, whereas we see only one upgrade started there for time. We see a faster second factory for Maru, and Maru's been on 74 SCVs for a while. Like, he's been up in SCVs consistently over the last few minutes. So I feel like this is Maru saying, okay, I see what sort of game we're playing, all right? Your defense is really good. I can also play a defensive game. I can flex, you know, aggressively and defensively. So he's going to move around. And the both players just posturing, but neither one wanting to overcommit. It's such a big map. If you get caught on the other side and they bypass you, get in your production, you're in big trouble. So both players playing super careful StarCraft.
Yeah, it's just like when you look at trends in TvT, especially the sensor towers, neither player missing that when they go for that third. Time considering jumping in, there might have been, I think he might have been able to grab that tank. There was a little bit of a soft spot there, but you know that's that caution that you're talking about. He's like, well, I'd rather pull back and maybe deny a fourth if he's moving it. I don't know. He actually loaded up in his medevacs and he's just flying home.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Time's vision there, you see one tank shoot you, you've got no idea what's supporting it, right? If there's 10 Marines with it that stim forward, you're going to get wrecked. In hindsight, you know, we get to see everything.
Or you ask yourself, why does my opponent only have one tank back at his base? Oh my goodness, I'm about to die. So, bringing everything back to help defend. It's never a bad move. Oh my goodness, he's just going to try and get a spread here.
No, there's no way you can win that fight, Maru. Get out of there, Maru. He's going to lose at least one Raven.
How good is anti-armor missile? Let's find out. Auto turret's going down. Oh, those Marines are actually dying pretty fast, Pig. At that point, with only +1, the Marines are at -2 armor. So that's they do take a lot of damage.
Yeah, I really like the idea from Maru. I definitely think a bit over-eager there. You know, the idea of saying, look, this is a very mobile attacking force. If I catch 1 or 2 tanks, I shut them down, I take the fight, and then I disengage, and I pick up and boost out. But losing the Ravens there, a little bit rough. Both players now posturing across this map. And they haven't really been fighting over the watchtower. It's more been about threatening the sides.
+2 finishing up, so they both want to get into it. Time wants to bring his army over, but great positioning by Maru. You were talking about the features of this map earlier. It's hard to push up these ramps.
Yeah,
You're not tacking up that.
It's a nice threat you're creating here, but you can't force the issue time. Time's got to lead.
You know what's actually really dangerous, though? There's a weird thing I'm thinking about right now. If he was able to win this Viking fight, yeah, he's just going to use it to stall time to get a big drop inside of the main base. This is so risky!
Surely Maru's prepared. He didn't change the rally point.
Where the engineering
He can't
base.
believe it.
I'm sweating.
No,
racing.
he can't believe that he would have gone for this. That was such an insane move. It was the obvious move, but Time goes for it anyway, wins the Viking War, gets in, snaps the command
pulling
center.
some of those forces away. Vikings are exposed too. Don't want to lose any of those. He kills the main base command center. Like, man, if I was him, I would be thinking about those engineering bases again. That's devastating damage he was able to do. He lost a lot of his Marines, but the siege tank count is the more important part of this army. And as long as he can get that home and start to slowly replenish that bioforce, we haven't had the big air transition yet, but it is coming. Fusion core on the way. Liberators are already coming out for Maru.
You know, this is a different sort of Maru from the previous games. He's showing he can take a punch. Yeah, that was him being cocky, not changing his rally point to intercept that potential drop. I mean, he knew it was an option.
Go home time. You can't fight here.
But what's most impressive about what Maru's been doing here is that, you know, he lost that command center, he lost some stuff in the main. Look at his economy. Look at his supply. His money is banking. He's faster into the fusion core, faster into 5-star ports. Maru is very happy to play this game right now.
He's going to get wedged outside of his third base here, too.
Oh, no.
This is going to be quite hard to hold. There are so many Marines here. He could just run straight. He could just run to the left of that command center and fight it, but instead he's going to bring everything over, sieging the Liberators, and getting a little bit adventurous, but the tanks are still not here yet for Time. He's got the siege up on this third.
The siege tanks from Maru just let out a deadly volley. And there goes all of Time's Marines, most of his siege tanks falling as well. Time here just pushing a little bit too eagerly down that right-hand side of the map. And I mean, I was a bit surprised no one was fighting for the watchtower. We see exactly why. If you just sit on the side of the map like that, your opponent can dive through the middle and they're on top of your base. Maru with an awesome push.
I don't know if Time forgotten he didn't have any medevacs to that army, but when he moved to that bottom right side again, I'm like, you cannot go up there. If he had 4 medevacs, I'm like, okay, maybe take that position and try to go for another big drop, but that position was just so rough because he couldn't get back to his own base as fast as Maru could. And Time is in a really tough position right now. Liberator range is about to finish, and with the Viking count advantage, there's nothing he can do to stop them from just mowing down the tanks from 13 range away.
Yeah, I mean, Time has to fight a really scrappy game for the next minute or two until he stabilizes, you know, on supply and catches up in army. But even at that point, I feel like Time is forced to play a mass marine tank style at this point. I don't think he can catch up in that air war, so I think marine production has to be the priority for Time, and he needs to get some sort of force threatening on the left-hand side of the map. You can see here, any small skirmish, the Vikings punish him. Those medevacs go down. So Time's got to split his army up down the left-hand side of the map, threaten the right, and then try to open up these rocks, look for some sort of engage where he can wedge the army, but you cannot compete in the air. It has to be pure marine tank for Time.
Yep, there's no way he's going to be able to catch him in that air force. The Liberator adding to this, the Marines have been cleaned up, and that's it. There's no anti-air to protect the tanks. GG! Maru's going to tie this series up 2-2.
Not going to go out that easily. Maru with a very nice game, and it's a good adjustment. You know, I was critical of the opening, but it was his focus throughout. He was a little bit tighter with the upgrades. Fantastic defense. You know, shut everything down from so many angles, and you know, to be critical of him, he was like, there's no way you're going to pick up in that main. Didn't even prepare for it. Didn't even change the rally point, but he was so on point with his macro, even losing a command center didn't matter.
One of the medevacs I think he went with towards that main was empty too, and I'm like, maybe if he had committed a little bit more, if he had been able to do a bit more damage, getting the command center is nice, but as you pointed out, he already had so many other bases, his economy was fine. Like, that's one of those moves where you want to like really hurt the production, or I think look for those engineering bays again, because when you're making a move like that, you're giving up your army advantage. In Mars as well, I already have everything I need to play the end game, so yeah, I'll rebuild the command center, and then I'm just going to kill you. Disco Bloodbath for the final map of this series. Pick a fitting map.
Oh yeah.
Because this series has been a bloodbath.
Dude, this tournament, yesterday we had so many 3-2 matches, already starting off the group of death with a 5-game set. It's awesome. You know, we're just gonna have so many games, and it's just so good to see. Time's the biggest underdog maybe in the entire tournament, right? Maybe Hero Marine as well. He's one of the biggest underdogs. It's his first time here, already showing up in a big way. This is awesome.
All right, it's time to find out who's winning the first match of Group B, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into it. In the bottom right, the red Terran, the Korean who has brought back some macro play.
Jin Air Greenwing, Maru.
Reaching his final form against our blue Terran in the northwest, trying to make the upset dream a reality.
Newbie, Time.
Big map that we're going to be going into here. Disco Bloodbath. It's a large one, and I mean, yeah, we're going to see the exact same opening out of Time. Maru, I would not be surprised to see. Actually, no, he's not going for it. Second gas.
Looks like a 1 Rax Reaper expand out of Maru.
Reactor Hellion, maybe?
It could be, and with an SCV scout from Time, there's a possibility of some poke potential here. You do have a very small Reaper Cliff, but you generally don't want to block it in TvT because unless you're like, oh, I'm playing like Skylar, oh, he's gonna 4-Rax Reaper me, okay, I'm gonna block it. But like otherwise, siege tanks are gonna blow apart whatever it is you use to cover that. So
yeah.
I don't think that it's necessarily bad. He should be able to take map control very easily at the start of this game when he sees that Maru is actually playing very conservatively.
Well, this is exactly what I was asking for Maru to do in the last game as well. He ended up, you know, not doing it, but this time around, he's gone for an SCV scout. He's doing an expand. This is the way you're going to get a lead against Time's opening. And I feel like Time's had a little bit of a freebie up to this point in terms of saying, you know what, I can just go 2-Rax Reaper, get a bunker, get a command center, and it's all good, I'm safe. And the thing is, he's been actually ahead 1 or 2 SCVs on Maru with that opening.
Yes.
That's not going to be the case this game. We're going to check about a minute, 2 minutes from now. We'll update that. You're going to see Maru sneak a good handful of SCVs ahead of Time. And, I mean, if he takes any engagement nearly as good as that first defense in the last game, Maru's just going to have this game, you know, in the palm of his hand.
Yeah, I'd still just like to give an interesting to note. Good amount of respect from Maru towards Time's build, though, with this, because he didn't build an add-on with his barracks. He's actually building, he went Reaper, Marine, Reaper, because he knows that the vulnerability is 3 Reapers could beat those 2 units, and he's actually still going to get a nice little poke done here, but by having that 3rd Reaper come out when it will, it's not like Time's been going up to 5 or 7 Reapers. Like, he's like, okay, I just need to get like 1 or 2 more extra units than I normally would, and I'll be totally fine. So once that Hellion pops, Time can't fight against this. He's going to have to go home.
Good defensive grenade there from Time. Oh, comes back
don't lose those Reapers, though.
There's a Hellion there. You got to watch out, Time. Got to leave. So good choice to retreat at that moment. You know, just run straight over the dance floor.
And talk about fast 3rd command centers as well. Time's like, okay, you got your natural faster than me? Well, I'm going to get my 3rd faster than you possibly could here. So that's his way of kind of compensating for, as you discussed, the Maru trying to take advantage of the safeness of that build that Time went for.
Cool adjustment, isn't it? I like that. Nice way to mix things up. And no medevac this time from Maru. Actually, just going straight into the very early Ravens. This is really good. I mean, he's going to have such a fast lead on the Ravens. 2 Raven push with a couple siege tanks could be very deadly. Time's going to be way behind on that.
Yeah, and then back to, as we've been seeing, that's kind of been the trend for this matchup. Even though Maru didn't go for the same build, the SCV that got picked off and delayed that CC even just the tiniest little bit doesn't actually have that worker advantage that we were thinking he might. Especially now that Time is going to have that 3rd CC finishing as the 3rd starts for Maru. But that's kind of been the trend, is that Stim is way faster for Time. Maru goes double Raven, or he's been going for the double Raven. So positioning becomes big. But I think, looking at the way that the last game played out, this map is going to favor some more of those positional plays like Maru went for, where he kind of has that middle spot. Yeah. And if Time is dancing around him, he's going to have a very difficult, you know, time trying to handle all of that, those big pushes that come around the side. Of course, Disco Bloodbath, that main base invites big drops.
Big drops.
It begs for big drops.
Yeah, so many different angles you can come into that main base from. And, you know, looking at the economy, I said we'd check it back a few minutes later. Time's still up a worker. That fast 3rd command center helping, but of course delaying the command center on the high ground and then Maru having to float it down. It actually turns out completely okay in that regard.
Yeah, I think that one pickoff, just a couple seconds it was delayed, but just the 1 SCV there was just nice little touch.
And he hasn't missed a beat with everything else. Immediately lands his 3rd base. Has his own Raven out, but he's going for a fast stim and good Marine production. So even if Maru has maybe an extra tank, maybe an extra Raven, you're going to see that the Marine count for Time gives him a lot of strength. And this opening has just been so nice for him once again. This supply lead, this worker lead, it actually makes me feel really good for Time.
This is really dangerous, actually, for Maru. Moving this 3rd command center out, you gotta be really careful with those siege tanks because he doesn't have a lot of other forces. And even just a handful of Marines from Time with how fast his stim was done. Now, we, of course, see that he didn't move his units across the map, but if you're Maru, you have to be thinking to yourself, like, okay, there's a possibility that something is going to come here. That window is closing as his stim is about to complete, so he won't be worried anymore.
Maru's gone 2 medevacs, but he has almost no Marines so early, so it's a little bit of an odd opening. That Cyclone lock-on micro from Time gets the Raven down to almost half hit points. That's an awesome start, gets another lock-on. Quick hot pickup to cancel that from the Reaper.
Oh boy, he's here, he's ready to fight! Throws the interference matrix onto the other Raven, kills that. Medevac tries to save the siege tank. Cyclone not able to get a lock-on onto that, but oh boy, that army supply, 46 for Time. Maru immediately lifts that 3rd command center. He's getting the hell out of there, Pig.
Dude, that ambush from the left-hand side. The Reaper Cyclone looked like it was just trying to pick off a unit or 2. Maru just got broadsided by that army.
Surprise!
Absolutely smashed in, man. That was a beautiful engage there. He even had the interference matrix down to start the fight. Time here, he pushes back the 3rd, and that's all you need to do.
He could drop him. He could drop him too. There's a lot of stuff he could do with this. I mean, and the best part, Pig, he doesn't need to do anything because he's got his 3rd base mining. You know what he does? He's making sure he doesn't. He's doing the Artosis thing, all right? He's getting his armory. He's trying to make sure he has a follow-up to this. He goes for the interference matrix. There is 1 tank sieged up for Maru. Time's going to split those Marines up the ramp.
Wow, dude, so many SCVs falling here. The Marines with 1-1 stim and shields, and that is 23 of Maru's workers smashed. I mean, it was a big
Oh
economy
my God.
lead. Now it is a monstrous economy lead. Maru is going to be forced to counter push across the map. He needs to do damage.
No landed third, half the SCV count, and no other real tangible advantage in terms of the units. I don't think, didn't really look like Time was risking too many of his siege tanks. I don't think that there's a huge difference in terms of the power units that are on the field, but he can start his 2-2 whenever he wants. But actually, whoa, Time never started his +1 armor. Okay, well, that's a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, that is a big mistake.
He did have 2 engineering bays, but he actually forgot to start his +1 armor.
Yeah, that's a mistake. I mean,
Huh.
what do you think, though, about Maru sitting back here? I mean, this economy lead, we've seen these games have been so evenly matched in the late game, and it feels like Time just has too big of a lead here. I mean, yeah, you're starting a 4th commencer, but you're on 40 SCVs versus 70.
I agree with you, Pig, but it is game 5 and it is Maru on the other side. So if anybody was going to be able to find a way to do it, it would be him. Of course, there's no reason at all why he would tap out or try to throw it away here because he knows everything is on the line
right?
here.
Surely he's got to like slide a drop across. I feel like he can't just play completely conservative. I mean, I'm not saying throw the towel in. I'm saying accept that you're in a bad position and say, you know what, I've got a 10% win percentage.
I do think he's got to try to make something happen.
He's got to make it a bigger win percentage, and I think to do that, you've got to do something. You know, it seems like his choice is no, let's have perfect, solid defense. That's my way back into the game. I happen to disagree with it, but I mean, Maru, he's made incredible comebacks. That's how he won 4 GSLs in a row. He did it a lot against Zerg players, occasionally against Protoss, but this has always been Maru's Achilles heel. This matchup, Terran versus Terran, has been the matchup where he hasn't been able to just pull himself out of the dirt nearly as much. So he's got his work cut out for him in this game. It's going to be a long defensive road to the comeback for him.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about watching Time do everything is like, all right, Time's gonna move out. But before he did that, he set up his 4th base, he's got the planetary morphing. He didn't have his +1 armor, which hurts, but he'll have his +2 attack, which is gonna offset the armor upgrade advantage that Maru would have. So it actually ends up being like a net 0 situation. And Maru just doesn't have anywhere near as much Marines. He tries to poke off a few of those power units, but he can try to siege up over towards that north side of the 3rd, outside, and even just chip away at the gas in the sensor tower if he wants. Oh my god, if he just stims straight into this.
I think he's going to wait for +2 attack.
Oh,
he's
God,
going to
go for it, the Madman.
Wow, he wants to push his way in. Good positioning from Maru, though. Nice defense. Maru cleanses that push very well. He does have to lose 10 SCVs, though. And every loss is very hard for Maru to replace. Time can afford these trades. Maru can't.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing. Maru is getting a couple of chips onto this army, which is nice for him, but Time can afford to throw some of these forces away. And this is the spot you want. You've wedged yourself on the north side. A lot of value to be obtained here. You're denying a refinery for siege tank and Viking production, the sensor tower for vision, that's going to force more scans out, or keeping the Vikings up further. And of course, you're going to get residual SCV damage on the north mineral patch. Ooh, Liberator, I do like this. He's going to force these Marines to try and dive on it.
Nice move by Time. Shuts it down. He says, I've still got position. Deal with this problem. I've got 4 bases, a 5th command center on the way. I'm going into the air units, +3 weapons, +2 armor, +2 vehicle weapons. All of the upgrades are on the way for Time. And these Vikings here for Maru, he's trying to hang on. He's floating his 4th base down. I think he's got to move all of his SCVs down there because this base, he's losing SCVs. He's bleeding them out whenever they float over to that side of the mineral line.
Yeah, one thing that Maru's done a pretty good job of is trying to maintain his Viking count in this series, in these mid-game situations, despite as far behind as we know him to be. If Time thought he had the way that he was moving his army, if he thought for 1 second he could load up all those medevacs and jump into the main, he would. And if he could get all those units in there, the game would be over. And now he's gonna slide all over to this. Look at this, Maru already had 1 tank in the main, just kind of waiting for this in case it happened.
Yeah, I mean, those are so low on hit points. You psychopath Time, he's just going to go for it. He's just going to go right on into that main. There's just not enough to cover every single side. That huge Marine drop, it looks like it might just be the devastating move that Time needed. Maru, he's trying to inch forward with Liberators. The Marines don't even care. There's just too many of them.
Just too much, and Maru's base getting obliterated by Time. Another 18 SCVs killed. He retreats to the tanks on the low ground, which are going to be able to shell away at these Marines, saying, you are not dislodging me that easily. This is so tough. Maru still has a lot of his tech units, but this game has been like, he's just been taking so many blows, and how much longer can he stand up to fight against his opponent?
Yeah, this is insane. I mean, I love the way Time's piling on the aggression. It's tempting to go and focus on the Viking Lib really hard, but instead he's saying, no, raw numbers, Marines, and tanks. These are the units that I can get in there quickly, and I can stop you ever securing the new bases that you need to keep up, to catch up with me. So he is going into the tech. He's adding the starports, but it's still non-stop Marine tank. And that's what's giving him the advantage. He sees the 4th base on the south, and there we go. He's going to rotate to a new attack angle. I love this. The army shifting position and looking for weakness. He might even be able to thrust through the middle as Maru repositions.
He's got the upgrade advantage again. +3 attack just finished for Time. Also, advanced ballistics for the Liberators is going to be coming in. And as soon as he takes the air advantage, which, by the way, he's got more Vikings than his opponent, that's it. You just put the Liberator range over the siege tanks and everything's just gonna die. So Maru, the clock is ticking on him to be able to try and do something here as time spreads out for a possible another dive onto this army.
He's gonna just stim forward there. The Marines quickly pulled back though by Maru. I think Time needs to be using a few more scans to position here.
He's been, at this point you can get away with being a little bit reckless, but he has opened the door a few times for Maru to catch him and let a little bit of it go, but here come the Liberators, and there's nothing you can do in this situation. You have the air advantage. In Terran versus Terran air superiority like this, there's almost no way to get around it. In this phase of the game, you have to be able to answer this, and he just cannot pick. SCV's coming off the line.
So many Marines, and a devastating victory there in game number 5. The young gun, the newcomer to BlizzCon, his first time here at the Global Finals. Time takes it out against Maru.
Absolutely fantastic series played by the Chinese Terran and all the Maru fanboys that were possibly looking forward to a match against Serral, sweating in their boots, Pig.
Oof. And likewise, I think the hipster nerds there that were saying Time was actually favored to get out of this group, I think they're feeling really good about those predictions right now. I mean, that was just such impressive play throughout.
Yeah, you know what? This really solidifies it as much of a group of death as it possibly could have been. The player that we talked about maybe being the weaker one, the one that would struggle, taking out one of the most storied, favored Terran players in StarCraft, especially over the last year, Pig.
Yeah, I mean, this is just such a nice victory, and he did it in really good fashion as well. It was just like, it was, looking at that opening, we were saying, hey, this is going to work out well for Maru. But there was that moment the Cyclones were kind of picking off the units as they came out. Maru was doing his hot pickup micro.
Jumped him.
Yeah, 20 stim Marines. That's all you need, man. Just jump on the army, dive in there. And I love to see that Marine-heavy style because the 2 barracks opening, it doesn't look that great economically. The stim Marines are awesome, though.
Yeah, fantastic play. And I believe we are going to go onto the stage and hear from our winner with Smix.
Wow, we had our first match from this group of death, and it is Time taking down Maru with a very, very impressive 3-2 victory. So first of all, congratulations, Time. This is your first ever WCS Global Finals, and this is the first time we've actually seen a Chinese player make it to the WCS Global Finals. You get put in the group of death. Your first opponent is Maru, a 4-time GSL champion. What is it like to take him down 3-2?
It's like when I see this group, I think I already die. I don't want to lose like 0-6, but I practice so hard, like every day 50 games, and I'm very thank you Innovation, Fantasy, and Bunny. They help me practice.
I think we definitely saw the fruit of that effort today because starting from map 1 on Ephemeron, it was such an exciting game, so back and forth. Walk us through what it was like.
I practice like very many long game, but I always lose. But today, I feel good.
And I also wanted to ask about Winter's Gate. You hit at such a great timing, and you were able to kill both of his engineering bays before 1-1 finished. What was that like?
It's like when I attack his 2 base, I just see 1 tank, so I think maybe I can go and win this fight.
Well, now you just took down Maru, and it's Stats or Serral next. But now that you took down Maru, are you feeling a lot more confident going up against one of those guys?
The Serral and Stats, they are like last year final, but I want Protoss. I don't want her.
All right, well, we'll see which player you face up against, as that is the next match. But for now, congratulations once again, Time, with that very impressive victory over Maru. We are going to head to a quick commercial break. When we come back, it'll be match number 2 from this group of death, with Sats taking on Cyril.
2019 WCS Global Finals, Round 16.